Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Shemi Habashai, Shemakak Wadash. And I want to say Shalom, Dr. Nakwat out there, pursuing this truth diligently. I'm coming at you once again with another lesson. This one, what did I title this one? Actually, I got my notes up on the, I usually use my phone, but I got it up right here. This one is titled, Edomites Come in Color, in all colors, just like Jake. All right. And I'm not really sure if I like this title. I might change it. It should probably be Edomites and Israelites come in all colors. Which is, I'm going to change it. Israelites and Edomites come in all shapes, sizes, colors, with an exclamation point. I'll leave the ands like that. So, new title: Israelites and Edomites come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. All right. So I wanted to change it up a little bit because I didn't like it because that sounds like it leans one way. And this is, inspired through Yahweh Shemi Shai, of course, it always is. Through Instagram this time. And I've had this video. I ain't going to show it just quite yet, but I've had this video for a little while. And today, the song that he's singing actually got stuck in my head. So I kept watching it and watching it and watching it and watching it. And I can't really tell. And that's, the point of this lesson. There was a lesson that was put out not too long ago about, from, I believe it was Apostle Dahar that originally posted. I know a couple of other, apostles. I know Apostle Gabar made a lesson on it, as well. And I know, the subject matter was one of Elder Manata Zatba's videos, in which, there was a person that, I guess tried to run over IUIC with their car, and, it was this, white looking woman, all right, and by what she did, the elder Manata Zatba said that he thought it was an Edomite, all right, but not because of color, all right. We don't go off of color, we go off just action, okay. But of course, the apostles had another approach on it as well, saying you don't know necessarily that was an Edomite, because Jake, that's the type of shit Jake would do as well, wicked Jake. So, but of course, Elder Manata Zatba wasn't in the wrong, because he wasn't looking at, the color. It was just, by the action, and then, color can, help play into it a little bit, but it's not about color, really. And I've talked about it a lot, but I wanted to touch on it on a different light, because, yeah, a good chunk of the people that you see that are white-looking are Edomites. A good chunk of the people that you see that are melanated individuals that look like so-called Negroes are in fact, Israelites. And a lot of the people that you see that are so-called Mexican, or not, so-called Mexican looking, are in fact Israelites as well. But you have underliers, man. Israelites and Edomites come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. So you can't just say just because they're one color that they're that thing, all right? But just because they're black, all right, so to speak, that they're Israelites, or just because they're so to speak white, so-called, that they're an Edomite, all right? Because you're gonna have people like such as I myself, that I'm an Israelite, that gets passed off as white quite frequently, all right? Regardless if there's Mexican or other stuff down through that features, all right, that get played up, all right? If you have white skin, you're usually just considered white. If you have dark skin like that, you're usually just considered black, all right? And you can get people confused, like, oh, you're black, no. Cuban, oh, you're black, no. Dominican, technically, yeah, you're dark, all right? But they wouldn't be, they mean the race of black, and it makes no sense, because there's no race of black. That's why it doesn't make sense in the first place. So, this is a lesson, just exercising the fact, probably another short one, just exercising the fact and exemplifying the fact that just because someone looks one way doesn't mean they are that one way, even if they act some way, okay? For example, all right, when, my wife first met my dad, she says, wow, you really think this guy is an Edomite, all right, just because of how he acts, all right, but it didn't flow down, right? But if you take a look at how that works, my dad's lived in small towns most of his life, All right. And because of that, there hasn't been a lot of, he's lived in cities, but he doesn't like it. He lives in small towns. A lot of them have to be, and he's white enough looking, right? A lot of people confuse him as a Mexican, right? But he refuses to believe that he is. But he's white enough looking, but a lot of people will be like, okay, paso, la la la, and he'll be like, huh? Well, no, I'm not a Mexican, and everyone says, oh, you're not Mexican? What the hell? Back when he used to work construction, he'd be, we get that a lot. I don't get it as so much anymore because I stay inside a lot. I need to get out more, but when I get tanned up, a lot of people end up, speaking to me in Spanish. I actually had one lady about a couple months ago, I think maybe half a year now, that got, she was like, ¿hablas en español? And I said, no, and she got mad at me. All right, I can, or I'll be like, oh, muy poquito, but it's bad. I'm not great at it, so I just don't speak it because I'm not good at it. But I'm good with the pronunciations sometimes, but I just can't remember all that, man. I can't remember all that. Hell, I barely remember English. All right, so it's one of those things where if somebody really doesn't want to realize who they are, they can just ignore it, and that's what my dad's kind of done. And he's around a bunch of Edomites in small towns, and he's especially the small town that he's in that now. It's really a population of probably less than 1,000 people. So he really doesn't have any of that sauce. He's grown up. He's only pretty much dated white women. He's only pretty much only friends that he's ever really been around outside of the military were mostly white or Mexican guys. So he doesn't really have much anything that you would really say, okay, this guy's an Israelite off of, right? But my mom, right, is all into the black style and stuff like that. She doesn't really dress like that anymore, but she did in the 90s, and we listened to, when they came out fresh, like NWA, right? All sorts of shit, right? I don't know all she was listening to, but I know NWA was one of her favorites, and back in the day, and but she's an Edomite, more than likely, right? Just by judging. So you would have the two people confused, right? You would have two people confused because she's like, oh, well, she likes rap music, likes the style and stuff like that, and thought a black guy was cute and all this stuff. Maybe she's really a Jake. No, she's an Edomite. But on the other hand, my dad just acts whiter than white, but he's really an Israelite. So you can't judge off of how they look, or sometimes not even how they act, man. Okay, because even among Edomites, you might look, this guy, look, he can rap. Well, he might just be a parakeet, man. He might just be a parrot. He might have been around that environment to where he got to learn it real well, right? Or you might have had an Israelite that grew up around nothing but a bunch of white people, so they act white, but they're really an Israelite, but they just don't know who the hell they are. So Israelites and Edomites come in all shapes, sizes, and colors, and you can't really just base it off of how they look or even really how they act, because it unless you're the Lord, there's no way you could have your gavel, all right, as that judge tool, all right, and bang it down on the counter and say, Edomite, all right? You don't know, all right? You can't. Can you look into that man's soul? Can you look into that man's heart and see that that's an Israelite or an Edomite? No, you cannot. So you can have assumptions and say, yeah, this guy is more than likely, all right, an Israelite, or more than likely an Edomite, but you can't say for really, unless in very few occasions when someone exemplifies themselves to be an Israelite or an Edomite in an extreme way, whether it's 9 times out of 10 it's through this truth. If they're acting some way according to this truth, all right, you could say, okay, that's an Edomite or an Israelite. For example, with bear with me, if you have a white looking person but he's getting this truth, all right, or she's getting this truth, then obviously they got to be an Israelite, okay, regardless of what they look like. Now, finding out with a melanated person, all right, it can be the same thing, but it's harder to see with melanated individuals because they could just be a coon. They could just be a coon. In the same term, you might have a speckled bird coon, all right, and they look, they're bucking up, all right, here it is this whole time, I don't want to hear none of that shit, you're hateful, and you're like, oh, that's an Edomite. Well, it might just be a speckled bird, but they might just be a coon deep down inside there, all right? Because if that was a black person saying, I don't believe that shit, would you go and say that that's an Edomite? Or would you say they're a coon? You'd probably go and say they're a coon, but if they're white looking, you wouldn't say the same. So that's something, and I'm making this lesson as, as someone who has also struggled with that as well. I got to get better at that as well, okay? When I first heard the lesson by the apostles, I was like, wait a minute, what are they saying? And then I listened to it, I said, you know what? That's right. I need to get better with that. All right. And it's something that we've seen in the truth. So when the apostles called it out, because it has been happening, that's probably why they called it out, because it has been happening. because we've been doing that. All right. And then when you see it, you're like, wait a minute, what are we talking about? This is kind of what we've been with, and that's not how we should have been. All right. We were, judging according to eyesight and not really weighing it spiritual, unless of course it was, something on the comment board. You can just tell. All right. But we can't just write anybody instantly off as an Israelite or an Edomite. It's easier to write someone off as an Israelite than it is to write them off as an Edomite. And again, going back into why that is, because you can tell if someone's an Israelite by if they come into this truth. Okay, we see that happen a lot. If they came into this truth and they wake up and they can call on Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, and they don't buck up like that, then they're an Israelite. But it's harder to tell if someone's an Edomite or not. Okay, because it's not like we know an Edomite's not going to come into the truth, but we also know bugged out 2/3 Jakes aren't going to come into the truth. We know that Edomites are going to buck up against this truth and say it's hateful, but we also know, all right, that the serpent-loving so-called black woman and her likened individuals out there are going to do the same thing. That's hateful. That's hateful. Now, Jesus is white, all right? So it can be hard. It can be hard, all right, to tell who's the Edomite and who's not the Edomite. But it can be easy to tell who's an Israelite when it comes into coming into this truth, right? So I've talked for far too long. We're going to get this video and get some scriptures. But again, the title of the lesson being Israelites and Edomites come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. So I got all the explanation out of the way. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get a scripture right off the bat, because the brothers always say, try to get it before the 10-minute mark, and it's 11 minutes. So this is John 7:24. Now this is red letter. All right, this is instruction from Yahweh Shai. It says, judge not according to appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Okay, judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. As a matter of fact, I want to go ahead and get this in the Bible Gateway. It's pretty plain as it is, right? Judge not according to appearance. Don't base what you think about someone just off their appearance, all right? But judge righteous judgment. We have to make sure we're being righteous about it, and not just, what we see, all right? But what we see, what we feel, what we hear, what we're knowing, all right? And that's how you can sometimes tell who's an Edomite, sometimes tell who's an Israelite, okay? Is by weighing them through the spirit, and you really got to use your spiritual discernment and say, okay, well, they're bucking up. Okay, now could they just be a bugged out Jake, or are their horns coming out? And I can't explain horns coming out. You'll hear brothers talk about it. You'll just know. There's sometimes when someone's an Edomite and you'll just know, you can feel it. There's that spiritual animosity. There are sometimes you can tell an Edomite that way, but you can't just see someone, they did something weird and say, oh, that's an Edomite. But there's certain ways, all right? There's certain ways you feel this, like this tension, this hatred, this feeling towards you, that that they hate you for what you are and not who you are. It's hard to explain, and the brothers and sisters that have felt it, they'll know, but it's hard to explain unless you felt that situation. Or if you say someone's horns come out. I've seen it with Edomites. It's different than when a Jake bucks up against the truth. It's different. It's like it's just different, man. You'd have to see it happen in real time, or on a comment board, or on the highways and byways, or brothers live, all right, on the highways and byways, or on your comment board, or something you said and an Edomite got all mad. You just have to see it to know how to identify it, right? But we're not supposed to just judge off appearance, okay? We're supposed to judge righteous judgment, as it says. So in the Bible Gateway, if I get the same scripture, John 7:24. We're going to go ahead and start with the good news. And it says, stop judging by external standards and judge by true standards. That's all right. Let's see. Let's get the NLT or the NLV or the NIV. Let's go with the NIV. It says, stop judging by mere appearances, but instead judge correctly. All right, because sometimes we're not judging correctly if we just go off of skin color, right? That's why I mentioned, skin color can be, sometimes used to get a gist, but it's not definitive. It's not, that's not the gavel banging down. All right, you say, okay, this person more likely might be an Edomite, but you don't really know. They could also just be a bugged out Jake that's in an Edomite looking body, right? So it's hard to tell sometimes. All right, so we can't just judge and say, yeah, write that person off as 100% as an Edomite just because that's how we feel. All right. Lean not into your own understanding, as the scriptures tell us. So that can kind of get a bit into leaning into your own understanding. If you start, oh, that's an Edomite. I know that's for sure an Edomite. All right. Unless you really for sure know that's an Edomite from, several things that they've done, right? So here it is. Someone said, "Oh, I don't believe in that Bible. I don't believe none of that shit." You say, "Oh, that's an Edomite." Well, you don't know that. Jake has that same mindset, right? But if they are, all I'm saying is, and this is what you need to try yourself. All right. The Bible talks about trying ourselves where we'll be in the faith. You need to try yourself in this regard. If this person was melanated, all right, dark skin, light skin, any in between, red bone, all right, yellow looking, all right, blue, black, whatever it happens to be, from the lightest to the darkest, all right, from Chris Brown to Wesley Snipes, all right, I go lighter than that, from Drake to Wesley Snipes, I'd have to see. There's lighter skinned people, but from Trippy Red, he's pretty light skinned. From Trippy Red to Wesley Snipes, all right, find out, if this person looked like that, and instead of looking like Hulk Hogan, right, would your opinion change? If this person said, "Oh, I don't believe in any of that shit," if they said, "Oh man, I don't believe in none of that shit," would your opinion change? Would it go from this person's Edomite to, "Oh, this person's a bugged out Jake"? If you switched it, think about that sometimes. All right, just something to think about. And then I don't like the NLV version. It says, "Do not say a person's guilty by what you see, but it says, be sure you know when you say what is right or wrong." I like the end of it, but it's not really talking about necessary. King James version always reigns supreme. Let's do the NLT. It says, "Look beneath the surface so you can judge correctly." See, I like that one. John 7:24 in the NLV, or the NLT. Slack you. Look beneath the surface so you can judge correctly. Don't think about their skin color. Look at their actions. And when you look at their actions, no, you gotta again look beneath that surface and be like, okay, maybe they grew up around a bunch of Edomites, or maybe this person grew up around a bunch of Jakes. Okay, for example, with what's his name, BLP Kosher. I was like, I've thought about it over the year, because I said maybe this guy's a Jake. I'm under the assumption now that he's probably not. Right? He's probably not. And he grew up, all right, in that area of Florida. All right? And I'll show you who BLP Kosher is, in case you're unfamiliar. Okay, this is BLP Kosher. If you listen to his music, it's pretty good. Okay? Some people say it sucks, but if you're into that type of like new rap bullshit anyway that all sucks, it's good for that new rap bullshit. All right? Here, I'll play a little clip. I haven't heard this song, but it's a month ago, but
I had to manifest this shit. I scraped shit up to find that plaque. I used to work at hard mac and cheese. Now I got cheese and max that 30 clip up on his side like.
And his Edomite side's really showing as recently, because his stuff's been getting real bad. Let me see.
Living by his rap, say that boy skater. I signed a deal and kept my soul, but it wasn't nothing major. Poltergeist, I know the real you. I'm trying to peel your face off. He ain't touching bread at all, like every day was pace off. I know that if they could, they'd have another Holocaust. I promise never to waste the tip how much them hollows cost.
Alright. He has some good lyrics. He said, "I know they'd have another Holocaust." Something about those tips, hollow points, whatever. Something that, But he started leaning too much into the Jewish shit, and there's just listening to him, and he had a couple hits, but listening to more and more of his music, I'm like, okay, maybe those were just some hits, maybe some Jake helped him with that. So, because his new stuff is like, as I showed you with those two, it hasn't been as good, right? Hasn't been as good at all. But he's with a parrot essentially, if so. He could still be a Jake, but I'm leaning more towards probably not. Just because, he grew up in that area. That's how he learned to rap like that. That's how he learned to dress like that. That's how he learned to get his wicks, all right, and all that. So that's just how it was, man. All right. But yeah, so John 7:24, back in the KJV, King James version, says, "Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment." And I'm going to show you our subject of the day. All right, it's this guy, Maurice the Music. And I was like, okay, this guy's probably, he's probably Edomite in that body. Now, I really don't know. He might not be. He could be. But to show you that someone that looks like this could, in fact, be an Edomite in that body. He could be an Edomite, but you're standing there saying, wait, but he's got dreads and he's melanated. He's got the thick lips. What are you talking about? Look at his style. He could be, he could be a Jake. But guess what? He could also be an Edomite. Guess what? He could also be a Moabite, right? We don't know at the end of the day, okay? I'm going to let you listen to his music. And you know what? The funny thing is I'm not into a lot of country, but I was listening to the song, and it's kind of fucking catchy, man. It's kind of catchy. And so I don't know what this guy is. He could be an Edomite. He could be an Israelite. I'll leave that for you to determine, right? I have no idea. Started out with thinking Edomite. Now I'm thinking Israelite. But could be an Edomite still. I really don't know. All right, I'll let you decide. What do you think? Do you think Jake or do you think fake? So I'm gonna go ahead and let it rip. And then you can see all the people in the crowd singing, "Wow, man, let's hear colored boy really can play that guitar," right? You look at it and you see them with their, they're Edomites. So I didn't really ever look at the people in the crowd. I looked at the people on the comment board and I said, oh, look at the people on the comment board. He might just be an Edomite because everyone's saying, oh no, he's not a YN. He's a young man. That's a handsome gentleman right there. But looking at the people in the crowd having disgust for him, is it because of just his skin color? Or is it because he is an Israelite? See, there's so many factors you got to think. See, that's why the apostles say stuff like that, right? To make you really think. And it makes you think, is he an Edomite? Is he an Israelite? You don't know. All right? Leave that for you to determine maybe. All right, to think on what you think. But at the end of the day, there's no way we can really know unless he came up and, and came into this truth, all right? As an Israelite, said, I'm going to cut off these dreads. You know what? I am an Israelite. Then we'd know. But until then, there's no way to know. So here you go.
Making the world go round. I hit the curve just to make you slide. All the light is a flashy yellow. The only thing that on is your key. Love anything to do with you, baby. Just ride and runs on a night like this. Ooh, just ride and runs on a night like this. Riding roads that don't.
All right, so you see it.
Trip through the countryside. 38's making the world go round. I hit the curve just to make you slide. All the light is a flashy yellow. The only thing that on is your key. Love anything to do with you, baby. Just ride and runs on a night like this.
So there you go. It's hard to tell, man. It's hard to tell. And it's catchy as fuck. I'll say that. If it's not usually something that'd be up my style, but I fuck with it. It's good. I think it's good. But then again, there's some Edomite country that I like. I like some of the old Alan Jackson. All right. I think he's good, but very few country music bands that I'm actually into. And it's also hard to tell because country was made by Jake, right? Edomites hate to say it. All right, but that's the origins of country music came from that. The origins, pretty much everything. All right, rock came. Well, let's see. You got death metal, which is that blah, 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 right, that type shit, right, which came from heavy metal. All right, and then heavy metal came from hard rock, and hard rock came from regular rock, and rock came from blues, and blues came from Jake. So it's hard to tell. All right, it's really hard to tell. And all that, man. And from rock you had punk, all right, and then punk you had hardcore punk, all right, and then punk and then metal fused, and then you had thrash, all right, thrash metal, and then you got to think about all these things, man. It's Jake made music, so you can't just because they're good at singing country music, you can't just write them off as an Edomite, okay? Because they could just be an Israelite. Still, so this, like I said, that's why I made this lesson. It's a little bit of a harder one. Now, this person's, melanated. He's dark skinned too. So does that matter any? Could he still be an Edomite? Yeah. Could he still be an Israelite? Yeah, absolutely. All right. Now, what if the guy? 1 minute here.
Ooh, just ride and runs on a night like this.
Now, could someone that looked like her, all right, in that pink shirt standing there be an Israelite? Yeah, she could be an Israelite too. All right. I don't think she is. All right, we never know. She has I think she probably has more of a chance than this person. You can tell that now. That's a person you can tell that's an Edomite. Okay, you can tell that's an Edomite because the mocking. You can see it in the eyes. Okay, you can see it in the eyes. There's that look like what does this ninja think that he's doing over here? All right, well really it would be ninja, right? That's what they would say. What does he think that he's doing over here? He thinks he can sing music. He has that mock smile. You can just see. All right, you can just see it. All right. So you just never know. And this guy right here, you don't know what he could be. He looks to be some type of Spanish or something, but you just never know with any of these people, man. Just showing you that you can't just go off a color. You can't just say, oh, because he looks like this way, he must be this thing. No, that's not the case, man. Let's get 1 Samuel 16:7, and let's see what the Lord said to Samuel. It said 1 Samuel 16:7, but the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance. What is countenance? Let's stop. What does this word mean? It's countenance.
Countenance.
All right, a person's face or facial expression. It could mean features, physiognomy, physiognomy.
Physiognomy.
That's a big ass word. So the person's facial. Oh shit, man. Check this out. Let me not. Dove hour. All right. Countenance. The Lord said, don't look on his countenance. A person's face or facial expression. Going back to this big ass word, physiognomy. A person's facial features or expressions, especially when regarded as indicative of character or ethnic origin. Ethnic origin. Looking on someone saying, oh, that's a Mexican. Oh, that's a Dominican. Oh, right there, that's an Israelite. Oh, that's an Edomite. That's a Moabite. Oh, that's a Hamite. Oh, that's an Elamite. We don't really know. We really don't know at the end of the day. Some people we can, but we can't do it with everybody. Okay? Can't do it. And usually the Lord reveals it when it's needed. We're going to go up and just know who's making our food. That person in the kitchen back there, see that? You see how he looks white? That's really an Israelite. Well, we don't fucking know. How would we know? You know, have we talked to the guy? Have we went over there and spoke with him? Has he said anything to us? Maybe he flashed us a dirty look. Now, did he flash us that look because we're melanated or with melanated individuals, or we flash a dirty look because we're wearing a Slayer shirt and he thinks that band sounds like shit? All right? Or maybe he doesn't like the way our hair looks. Maybe he just thinks we look like a bitch at the end of the day, right? You don't fucking know what this guy's thinking. Can't just go instantly to, oh, he's being racist, and I know it's because he's looking at us because he's racist, and he's racist because he's Indian. Well, you don't know. Sometimes that could be the case. Some people might just be staring at you because you look fucking crazy, Jake. All right? Or you might look familiar to them, so they squint their eyes and look at you. Do I fucking know that person? No, I don't look that person, right? Or whatever. You know, you just don't know at the end of the day. You don't know. You just don't know. 1 Samuel 16:7, but the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance, how he looked, maybe his race, right? Or on the height of his stature, all right, size, going back to what I named this lesson, call how Basha Meow Shai, says, because I have refused him, for the Lord seeth not as man seeth, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. So, you know, and it's going into, could you imagine if the Lord was as unrighteous in thinking as that? All right, no one would get saved. All right, well, some people would, but it would only be black people, and in that case, you'd have Edomites that would be among that because they're chocolate covered, right? They're black, all right. Now their dad, all right, was a white person, all right, but their mom was black, and they look somehow, you know, their dad's color didn't really affect them, so they looked like a dark skin, so they would just get saved just off their color. See, the Lord doesn't work like that. All right, that because that's an unrighteous way of thinking, and the Lord's not unrighteous. He looketh on the heart. All right, man looketh on the outward appearance, as it says. So we'd say, oh, that's an Israelite. If the Lord tasked us with gathering up who we thought was an Edomite and who we thought was an Israelite, we'd have a whole bunch wrong. The only way we could be safe is if we went to the camps. But theoretically, if the Lord said, can't go to the camps, that's off limit, you got to go on the street and find some people that are some Israelites and find some people that are some Edomites, and you got to be within, 95% accuracy rate. You wouldn't be able to do it. And you have to do it quick. You don't get time to study these people. You don't, only a normal level encounter that you would actually have in a real life situation. Ordering food, all right, walking by someone in a store, all right, asking someone where the bread is or something like that, right? Not, oh, so where are you from? Who's your dad? Who was his dad? Do you so was it, oh, so was your who was black? Was it your mom or was it you can't do none of that. You just got to go off there and see how they act. All right. You see what type of, music they're into maybe. They'll tell you what type of music they're into and a couple other things and you just got to judge off of that. You won't be able to do it. You won't be able to do it, man, cuz there's Israelites that love country music. All right, and there's Edomites that love rap music. So you wouldn't be able to tell. You wouldn't be able to do it, man. And if you think you could, that's hubris. That's pride. Okay, so you're already going off in an unrighteous mindset of thinking that you could because you couldn't. Right? You'd get some right, but you'd get some wrong as well. All right. So, and that goes back to the tears as well. You got spiritual tears and you got physical tears. I'm not going to iterate, go and delve into that too much because I have lessons on my channel about it. You can type in tear, Tare. All right, and there's lessons on that. You can go to the apostles pages and they'll have something. Again, I'm not a part of GMS, all right, but I teach, to the best of my ability, the same things they teach because that's who I was raised up under. All right, that's who I, being a baby in this truth came up under was GMS. So, they haven't led me wrong. All right, so if you want the truth, they're the only ones that's giving it. Unless you want some type of weird Israelite party, then you can go to one of the other camps. They'll give you that. But if you want truth, GMS is where it's at. And they got plenty of pages on their page. Just type in Tare, Tare. All right, Tare. All right, you can go to what is the 666 Mark II? All right, that's Apostle Gabar. You can go to Oslaki. That's Apostle Tahar. Excuse me. You can go to Daily Edification 4. All right, that's Apostle Gabar. You can go to GMS Info Doc. Doc is DOC. Channel 12. All right, space Channel 12. And that's Apostle Ramla. You go to the elders. You can go to GMS South Carolina 08. All right, that's going to be Elder Manata Zatba, of course, down there in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. You can go to Remnant Save 144, I believe. I believe that's Elder Yashawamba from GMS Dallas camp. All right, there's plenty of pages. Type in Terror. I guarantee almost all of them have it. All right, I'll go and prove that now. All right, go and show you. All right, boom, boom, just the ones I mentioned. All right, boom, boom, boom. Okay, so in no particular order, Terror. All right, well, he probably has one, but not named under that. All right. All right. Maybe not, but they're different lessons. Interesting. I wonder what they're naming them. Yeah, the wheat and the tares right here. We'll go and watch this lesson. The wheat and the tares. Go and watch it. GMS Infodoc Channel 12. All right, there you go. 5 years ago. But and the wheat and the tares is something that's been gone out for a long time. But you can type in speckled. It's hard to find. Sometimes you really got to do your searching to find the lesson that you're looking for. All right. But if you're interested and really wanting to learn, you'll do the deep search. But 1 Thessalonians 5:21 says, "Prove all things, hold fast that which is good." Now this is dealing with in the truth. All right, if you say something, you got to prove it. But it also goes into so that's the case. If you're saying, "Oh, this person's an Edomite," well, can you prove it? Because you don't want to put that out on someone and it's a lie. All right, here it is. Now you basically, that's bearing false witness. You're saying this person's an Edomite. They're a fucking Edomite. They're an Edomite. And you're just judging off of, they said they liked Garth Brooks. All right, you didn't find out anything else about them. You're just like, oh, they gotta be an Edomite. Gotta be an Edomite. No, Garth Brooks sucks. Gotta be an Edomite. Right? You don't know that. How? How do you know they're an Edomite? Do you know who their great granddaddy is? No, you do not. So how would you know? All right. Did they call you the N-word? No. Well, how do you know then? Because they listen to country music and they don't like the Bible? Interesting. Okay. Interesting combination. But can you say just from that they're an Edomite? Okay. They bucked up against the truth. Okay. Well, are they again? Could they be a speckled bird, but they could be a tear? a coon, all right, an Uncle Tom, all right, and not a tear, all right, a spiritual tear and not a tear of the bloodline. Think about it. If they were brown and doing those things, would you still think they were an Edomite? And if the answer is yes, yes, this person is an Edomite and they're bucking up against the truth. And what if they were brown? I'd still think they're an Edomite because of the way they did it. Okay, well, if that's the case, they might be an Edomite then. There's some people I've seen on the apostles page or Elder Manat Zatbah's lives, all right, that say some shit or do some shit, and I said, okay, yeah, this person's an Edomite, and if that person was and they're white looking, but if they were brown, would I've said, oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely, some of those people, but some of the ways they act, okay, and you'll know when those horns come out, that's 100%, right? You just know, but unless you know what horns coming out looks like and know how to feel that, then you know, then that's just how it is. It's just hard. It's hard to explain how it is. It's like they just spaz out randomly. Like the one example I've seen of horns coming out is when I first started coming to this truth and changing my diet. I was living with my aunt. She's an Edomite. And I was like, oh, I ain't gonna be eating pork anymore and stuff like that. Because at the time, before this truth, my wife was a Seventh-day Adventist. All right. And when I first met her, I believe she was still a Seventh-day Adventist. And then, she ended up finding out about the truth. And she told me about the truth because I had never heard about it. Okay. So it's like the opposite. Usually, the women are the ones that their husband told them about the truth. No, I didn't know anything about it, and I didn't know anything about it. She was telling me about this new thing, truth, and I thought it was a cult. Right? I was like, that sounds like a cult to me, man. And all I was doing was smoking weed and doing dumb shit. And I put it off. I was like, I don't know, that sounds like a cult to me. And I think she was watching Adam Abbott at the time, so it wasn't GMS yet. And person that told her about the truth ended up finding about GMS, told her about GMS, and then she told me about GMS. And I was like, still, I don't know, man, I don't like it. And then she showed me Elder Manat Zatbah. Said, I don't want to listen to this. This guy's an asshole. And I didn't say it like that, but that's what I was thinking. I'm like, this guy's mean. I don't like him. He just goes out and hurts people's feelings. And of course, me and my weed smoking, still a vape smoking mindset. So I was like, I'm not into this. And then later, I don't know, she kept sending me videos, and I said, okay. There was one. It was what was his name? GMS Spiritual Warfare. That's what it was. GMS Spiritual Warfare. Something happened with his channel or something. I haven't had it for a while. I don't know if he's, Lord willing, he's still out there in the truth doing what's right. I just haven't seen of his stuff. I haven't looked for it really too much. But that's really who the Most High woke me up through. All right, is those videos. And I said, okay, I'm into this. This is true. This is true. Okay. And then what was I putting here? At the time she thought that I could have been an Edomite. Okay, but you just don't know. You just don't know at the end of the day, man. I lost my train of thought because I was rambling about how things went. But what was the point that I was making with that? I'm trying to think. Fuck, man, I tell you what. Anyway, but the ADD will get you. But so it cycles around anyway. Because she would have thought that I was an Edomite. Okay, but or bucking up against the truth, right? Oh, that's an Edomite. That's an Edomite. Well, no, because I was doing wrong. All right, and I love all the brothers now. All right, I love Elder Manat Zatbah. I watch his videos. If I'm not watching Apostle Gabar, I'm watching Elder Manat Zatbah 9 times out of 10. All right, because they have the longer lessons. I know the brothers have longer lessons, but when you watch something, time and time again, it'll start to recommend you that person more. And because their lessons are usually longer, and I like to, like I said, like 1 to 2 hours at least, sometimes including my lessons. About 2 hours I try to do of stuff related, at least 2 to 3 hours and stuff related in the truth per day. those lessons are great to go on and on. Like, I was watching the video that Elder Natazatba did just yesterday or the day before. There was questions. That thing was like 3 hours long almost. We'd have to go to live. Yeah, see, and I've yet to watch this. Love watching the lives and stuff. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, with GMS North Carolina. Okay. But yeah, this one right here. This is 2.5 hours right there, right? And I've watched more of it on my regular page. It looks like I haven't watched much, but I've watched a good, like, probably half of it. Probably finish the other half tomorrow, Lord willing. But yeah, man, it's so it's just, why was I bucking up? Because I was doing wrong. So if you see people that are bucking up, all right, so I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want to hear it. All right, and you're telling about not smoking or something, and they're smoking. Well, that's why they don't want to hear it. All right, because it hurts them, But that's why I didn't like Elder Menatazaba when I was first, introduced to it, because he was talking about, oh, you shouldn't be smoking. What was I doing? Smoking. Oh, you shouldn't be doing this, and I was doing that thing. Oh, you need to be doing this on Sabbath, and I wasn't doing that thing. Right? So it kept on cutting me. All right. So it wasn't him that I didn't like. It was the truth that I didn't like. All right, at the time. And of course, the Most High called all Yahweh Shemi Shai, Shai for that, pulled me out of that spirit and brought me in. And a lot of time, I've heard brothers talk about, when you first heard about the truth, sometimes we were like kind of off put by it, or I don't know, I'm not gonna, I don't know, and then we end up cycling around and coming back into it. All right, so just because someone's initially hesitant doesn't necessarily mean that they're an Edomite or that they're a 2/3. They might circle around. They'll either circle around or they'll circle the drain. One of the two. So prove all things, hold fast that which is good. All right, 1 Thessalonians 5:21. So if you say something, now this person's an Edomite, you better be sure. All right, especially if you're teaching it in a biblical light that this person's an Edomite, you better be sure. Oh, that's what I was saying. The ADD cycled back around. When I first came into this, when I first started actually doing right, because I knew about the truth, but I was still, eating pork and stuff. I was like, I'll get around to it, right? That's how I was. And I wasn't in for very long. I was a couple months. And I was still learning things, and I didn't know it was like a hard requirement. I knew it was something that we should do or something like that, but I didn't know if it was like we had to do it or like the Most High was just going to kill us. All right. Same with like keeping Sabbath and a lot of other things. I just didn't know. So and when I learned, it scared the shit out of me. I said, okay, I got to stop what I'm doing. But my aunt would cook a lot of pork dishes, so I told her, oh, I don't want none of this. And the excuse I used was that my wife was, Seventh-day Adventist previously, and they don't eat pork. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna tell this Edomite the truth or anything about it. So I was like, oh, she's Seventh-day Adventist, they don't eat pork. And so, I don't eat pork just out of, respect of her diet. I'm gonna be eating pork and kissing her lips, my pork lips. All right, no. So, and then she was like, oh, well, this and this, and blah 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 blah, and asking me if I'm religious or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I'm religious and stuff. And then she's like, well, I don't believe in God. And she's like, and I think if God does exist, then he's a real fucking asshole. And it started going, and like the horns just came out for no reason. All right, other than they were just there, like something just came on her, just as like fucking snap and freak out, and then calmed back down again. So sometimes, you can see those horns come out occasionally. So you just got, hey man, those horns can be very telling. Okay, but unless those are coming out, you can't really know unless they woke up into the truth or, something along those lines. But yeah, man. So just because someone looks like this doesn't mean that they're an Israelite, and just because someone looks like him or someone that's white doesn't mean they're an Edomite. You just don't know at the end of the day. So what we got to make sure is that we're not, being deceived. All right, Ecclesiastes 3:24. We can use this. It's not necessarily talking about this, but it's talking about having a vain opinion, a useless opinion. All right. So Ecclesiastes 3:24, it says, "For many are deceived by their own vain opinion, and an evil suspicion hath overthrown their judgment." Sometimes you get demons on you, or just, some not non-spiritual thinking that happens taking place. Not necessarily demonic thinking, but it's just non-spiritual. It's just you're not weighing it through spiritual. You're not thinking wickedly of it. You're just thinking in your own way. All right, leaning in your own understanding, as we're told not to, which is really a wicked way of thinking as well. But it's not necessarily demonic influence. It can be, but it cannot be. Sometimes you're just not thinking. But Ecclesiastes 3:24 again, for many are deceived by their own vain opinion. So you can be deceived by your own vain opinion, y'all, because he wore that shirt and with those shoes. Nah, Jake would never do that. All right, that's your own vain opinion, man. All right, and just like it says, in an evil suspicion have overthrown their judgment. Your vain opinion, all right, can lead to you, your judgment being all askewed, all right, and messed up because you're not thinking right. So Israelites and Edomites come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. It doesn't really matter how they look, all right, or how they smell or how they dress. All right, some of those people could be Israelites that are just far gone, man. Never grew up around anybody else that wasn't just a white person. All right, and you just don't know, man. You just don't know. So that's where we're gonna close it. How long was this? 30-ish minutes, hopefully. 45 minutes. I'm comfortable with that. So yeah, man. Just next time you see someone that's white looking, don't just go Edomite. Go, okay, is this person an Edomite, or they could be an Israelite? Guess I'll have to find out, right? But yeah, man, that's the lesson. We're gonna close out there. Lord willing, it was edifying. Once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Kakwadash. I want to say Shalom, brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring, keep the faith. We're almost out of here. Until next one, Lord willing. Shalom.